accompanied Ethan to the music, where I unexpectedly ran into Chloe, who had fled her wedding 3 years ago and just returned to the country. That night, he invited Chloe to dinner, leaving me to walk home alone in the pouring rain. The moment I stepped through the door, he stood there in his robe, smiling as he said, "Chloe's back. She's the only one I want. Let's get a divorce." My heart shattered as I watched him and Chloe, who was wearing a silk nightgown. The next day, he handed me a debit card in the house, saying coldly, "Once we get the divorce decree, we'll be quits." In the living room, I shivered uncontrollably, rainwater streaming down my body and pooling on the floor. Ethan acted as if he didn't even see me, continuing to calmly reason, "You know, your sister was originally supposed to be my wife. You only married me as Chloe's substitute, to take care of me. What's more, I haven't even touched you in these 3 years. Consider the card and the house your salary for 3 years of employment." "Haven't touched me?" I sharply looked up, staring at him in disbelief. Wasn't he the man who, during his episodes, repeatedly pinned me outside the 4th floor door and violently vented his frustrations? Seeing me look up, a flicker of confusion crossed his eyes. "You think the house and card aren't enough? But that's all your efforts are worth. Besides, you were always just a substitute." The last glimmer of hope in my heart was utterly crushed at that moment. I nodded emphatically at him, then signed "I wish you both happiness" before turning and returning to my room. I stripped off my soaking clothes and was about to step into the bathroom when Chloe burst through the door with a bang. "Grace, what were you signing just now? Were you cursing Ethan and me?" I wasn't actually very familiar with Chloe. Counting her barging into my room, this was only our 3rd meeting. She tied her hair into a high ponytail and, without a word, shoved me onto the bed. "I'm going to punch your face until it swells up today, so you can't use that pathetic look to seduce Ethan." Slap! 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 The sharp sound of slaps echoed through the room until blood trickled from the corner of my mouth, and then she stopped. Tears streamed down uncontrollably. The moment my hand touched my face, a piercing, agonizing pain shot through me. Ethan is really ruthless. All these bite marks. I wonder if that old man will mind. "What do you mean? What old man?" I quickly typed on my phone and showed it to Chloe. She raised an eyebrow, a smirk forming on her lips. "Want to know? Once you get the divorce decree and go home with Robert and Susan, you'll find out." "Can you tell me now?" "No." She picked up a lock from the floor, jingled it at me, a look of triumph on her face. "And you? You no longer deserve to be seen at the Hawthorne. Just 2 days of hunger, you won't die." After realizing what she meant, I, naked, lunged for the door, pulling hard to keep her from locking it. But I was still a step too late. Click. "Where's your sister?" "Oh, she's young and temperamental." As soon as she heard about going home, she ran off in a huff and even locked the door behind her so no one could get in. "I'm so sorry, Ethan. She's a country girl who grew up in the rural home. She's probably caused you so much trouble these past 3 years." Outside the door, the voices of Chloe and Ethan faded away. The electricity was cut, plunging me into complete darkness. I pressed myself against the wall, trying to move into the moonlight to catch whatever faint glow I could. An intense feeling of suffocation filled my throat. Countless icy hands clawed at me from all directions, tearing at my skin. "No! Don't touch me! Please, don't touch me!" When pushed open the door, the room looked like it had been shelled, utterly chaotic. She searched for a long time before finally dragging me out of the wardrobe. "You're truly sick. 2 days of hunger and you've made such a mess. Get up! We're going to the county's office together." I numbly turned my head, looking at the official documents she had thrown on the floor. Grace was my name, but my 21 years had never known clarity or joy. My tears had long dried. I haphazardly grabbed 2 pieces of clothing, pulled them on, and walked straight out the door. "Grace, what's wrong?" When I got into the car, Ethan was already sitting in the back. He turned his head to look at me, a hint of surprise in his eyes. Chloe sat intimately on his lap, cupped his face, and kissed him. "My sister just loves to drink. I had to drag her back from the bar last night. Now she's throwing a fit at me. I'm just letting her cool down by herself." Then, she snuggled into Ethan's embrace, her eyes fixed on me with a venomous glare. All the way there, their hands remained tightly clasped. Ethan recounted, detail by detail, everything that had happened over the past 3 years, knowing you love piano. I converted the 4th floor into a music room, just waiting for you to come back. He took a key from his pocket and placed it in Chloe's palm. The 4th floor. The truth was always so absurd. He had never allowed me into the 4th floor room, yet he could pin me outside its door and violently vent his rage. The one he truly cherished was Chloe, his sister. And I was just a disposable substitute. My hand instinctively went to my belly, a wave of desolation washing over me. I'm sorry, my sweet baby. Mommy can't keep you. At the county's office, a staff member looked at my face and asked again, Miss, are you sure you don't need us to call the police for you? This looks like domestic abuse, doesn't it? Get divorced. Men who abuse are never any good. Another female staff member glared at Ethan as I filled out the forms. I waved my hand, handed the forms to the staff, and quickly typed on my phone, it has nothing to do with him. Please process our divorce. Ethan, standing beside me, hesitated to sign. He turned his head and gently patted my head. Grace, thank you for taking care of me these past 3 years. I wish you happiness in the future. For 3 years, aside from his fits of violence during his episodes, he had always been good to me. He instructed the housekeeper to cook my favorite dishes. New season clothes would always be sent to me. He also gave me a lot of spending money. Knowing I loved to paint, he even had a gazebo specially set up in the garden for me to paint in. At first, I thought he had fallen in love with me. But every time I saw him lost in thought watching Chloe's videos, I was immediately brought back to reality. His actions were simply the care he extended to the sister of the woman he loved. I pulled at the corners of my mouth, then flipped my phone over. Thank you. Please sign. I turned around, wiping away a single tear. Goodbye, Ethan. Goodbye, the man I had loved for 3 years. The divorce decree felt hot in my hand. Before I could even put it in my bag, I saw Chloe, her face bright with a smile, taking Ethan's hand and heading towards the marriage registration section. Ethan, does my makeup look pretty today? Has my lipstick smudged? I'm so nervous. Quickly comfort me. You're the most beautiful. Even when you're an old woman in your 80s, I'll always love you. Ethan wrapped his arm around her waist, and they whispered intimately. What are you looking at? Stop coveting what isn't yours. Robert and Susan had approached me without my noticing. Robert sneered, grabbing my arm and pulling me toward the door. Consider yourself lucky you weren't beaten to death by Ethan and that your bipolar disorder was cured. Come home with us, Robert and Susan will definitely take good care of you. Back at the house, Susan took my hand and led me into a room, her face beaming. Grace, this room was specially decorated for you, isn't it beautiful? Before this, I had never had my own room in Robert and Susan's house. I looked up, surveying the entire room. It was pink, very pretty. The furniture, bedding, and plush toys were all brand new. Ever since Chloe returned, she's been praising you for being obedient, sensible, and well-behaved. Susan has also noticed you have many good qualities. The air conditioning in the room was too strong, giving me goosebumps, but Susan seemed oblivious. She took a low-cut camisole dress from the wardrobe. Good girl. Put this on. Tonight's a family dinner. Robert specially had someone bring this back from Italy. The craftsmanship is exquisite. Seeing me remain motionless, her fingernails dug into the soft flesh of my waist. She forcibly pulled the dress over me, then patted my shoulder with satisfaction. Good, very pretty. I looked down at the ultra-short hemline, frowning. This dress. If I bent over, or sat down, or made any slight movement, it would reveal too much. I pulled out my phone and quickly typed, Susan, I don't like this outfit. Can I not wear it? Susan, however, gripped my wrist. Smiling, you must wear it. It's Robert's thoughtful gesture. My nose tingled with sadness. I thought of Chloe. I quickly typed on my phone, if it were Chloe, would you make her wear such revealing clothes? Susan's face instantly fell. Then she sniffled and began to sob. I know you, girl, you've always thought we favored Chloe. But we were forced to do it back then. Now, you're finally free from that hellish situation, and we just wanted to celebrate properly for you. But you're here making malicious assumptions about us. Tomorrow I'll buy you a ticket, and you can go back to the rural home and live your free life. As for us, even if we're seriously ill in the hospital, you don't have to come take care of us. Just let us fend for ourselves. Susan, I didn't mean it like that. Do you really think this dress looks good? I'll wear it. I'm willing to wear it. A deep sense of guilt suffocated me. I quickly typed, trying to comfort Susan. She was still wiping away tears, so I had no choice but to stand on tiptoes and hug her. I comforted her the way my grandmother used to comfort me. As we went downstairs, Susan held my hand. Her touch was incredibly warm. The scent of red wine and truffles wafted from the dining room. Susan seated me next to her and personally taught me how to use a knife and fork. You're 21 now. You need to think more and learn more about many things. But don't worry, someone will teach you later. Just follow along and learn. As I put a piece of beef into my mouth, I couldn't help but lean over and kiss Susan on the cheek. Bubbles of happiness spread little by little from deep within my heart. So this was happiness. My parents, Robert and Susan, hadn't intentionally abandoned me in the rural home. They loved me too. After I put a piece of beef in my mouth, the empty seat opposite me was filled by a shadow. I looked up. Across from me was a middle-aged man. He didn't speak, but his cloudy eyes frequently scanned my chest. Susan looked at him, then at me, and spoke softly, "Mr. Peterson, this child grew up a bit wild in the rural home. I'll have to ask you to take good care of her from now on." I hid in the bathroom, using the mop to brace the door shut. My parents, Robert and Susan, had sold me to a man 30 years my senior for a bride price of $1 million. They dragged me and locked me in a room with him. Luckily, I had held onto my phone tightly in my hand. There was still a ray of hope. "Save me, Ethan! Robert and Susan are going to sell me." Robert and Susan's house wasn't far from Ethan's place. As long as he saw the message, he could be here in less than 10 minutes. The message had barely sent, and I hadn't even had a chance to catch my breath when the man kicked the door open. "Once I get you, and then attach myself to Ethan's name as his brother-in-law, I won't have to worry about orders for the rest of my life. $1 million for the bride price. It was worth it. If you want to get close to him, I have another way." I quickly typed, holding up my phone for him to see. The man squatted down, looking at me mockingly. "You? What could a mute like you possibly do?" I was about to continue typing when a message popped up on my phone. It was Ethan's reply. "What parents would sell their own daughter?" I asked Chloe, "And they're just setting you up on a blind date. They're doing this for your own good. Behave, don't make a fuss. Good night." Emoji, tears instantly welled up, and I frantically wiped them away with the back of my hand. But the more I wiped, the more tears flowed, until I could only clutch my phone tightly and sob. As expected, he would always unconditionally believe Chloe. "Why are you crying? I haven't even touched you yet. Damn it, I've lost all interest." The man pressed against my forehead, forcing me to look up. Through his eyes, I saw my 3-year-ago self. "Grace, you know Chloe is high-minded. She couldn't accept a husband like Ethan who had a condition. Just consider it Susan begging you, kneeling before you. Please, marry him in Chloe's place." 3 years ago, my soft-heartedness had led me into an abyss, enduring his repeated abuse. Each time I couldn't bear it and called Robert and Susan, they would casually dismiss it. "No matter what, he's still your husband. Taking good care of him is your responsibility. We don't have time to pick you up. Stay put at the Hawthorne." This time, I wouldn't let it happen again. "I'm pregnant with Ethan's child." The man's hand froze, and he took a step back. "You think I'll believe that? Stop lying to me." My fingertips trembled as I pulled up the ultrasound images from my prenatal checkup the day before yesterday. "I just found out 2 days ago. The date is right there. It's real. If you touch me today, not just you, but Robert and Susan will die here." I shoved the screen in his face. After seeing it, the man's breathing grew heavy. He snatched the phone from me, zoomed in on the bottom right corner of the image, and repeatedly checked the hospital name and examination date. While his attention was diverted, I grabbed the nearby scented oil bottle and smashed it hard against the mirror. A shard cut his eye, and he dropped the phone, writhing in agony on the floor. I picked up the largest piece and held it against my belly, slowly backing out of the room. In the hallway, Robert and Susan were long gone. I quickly shoved the front door open and ran outside with all my might. Behind me, the man's furious voice yelled, "Don't let her get away." In the main house of the Hawthorne, Ethan was showering in the bathroom. Chloe rested her feet on the wall, allowing for the conception of Ethan's child. The phone rang, and an urgent voice spoke from the other end. Then, she frantically dropped onto the bed and sat up. "What did you say?" "Say it again." When came out, Chloe was hurriedly changing her clothes. "Chloe, what's wrong?" My sister was on a blind date at home, and somehow she suddenly went crazy and ran out, then got hit by a car. Ethan's heart gave a sudden jolt. Grace was hit? He involuntarily tightened his grip on Chloe's arm, asking anxiously, "Which hospital?" "Is it serious?" "No, it's not serious. It's fine, I'll just go check on her." Chloe pried his fingers off and stepped back. The old man said that Grace herself admitted she was pregnant with Ethan's child. She couldn't let Ethan go to the hospital, and even more, she couldn't let him discover this. Chloe hugged him tightly, comforting him softly. "Ethan, don't worry. I'm Chloe. If I go to the hospital, I can handle it. Your health is important. Please stay home and rest, okay?" After comforting Ethan, she finally took the car keys and headed to the hospital. When she arrived at the hospital, the doctor was discussing the surgical plan with Robert. "There's bleeding in the kidney. Do you want to remove it or observe it conservatively? Also, she is indeed 1 month pregnant, but the baby cannot be saved." Hearing the doctor's words, Chloe breathed a sigh of relief. She could bear Ethan's child herself. She had a kidney donation surgery 6 years ago. If another one is removed this time, will there be any complications? Definitely. So, do you prefer conservative treatment? While was still weighing his options, Chloe directly interjected, "Remove it. People can live without a kidney." Ethan was still uneasy. He thought for a long time, then drove quickly to the hospital. When he arrived, Chloe's family was collectively sitting outside the operating room, looking disoriented. Chloe spotted him immediately, took a few quick steps towards him, blinked, and then buried her face in his chest, crying, "I was so scared." When I arrived, I saw Grace covered in blood. "Ethan, I'm so glad you came." Ethan's gaze shifted from the operating room to Chloe. He rested his chin on the top of her head and whispered softly, "Don't be afraid, I'm here. If the medical skills here aren't good enough, we'll transfer her to Hawthorne Hospital. I thank you on Grace's behalf, but that would be too much trouble. Let's just treat her here." Chloe would never agree to let Grace go to his private hospital. Her medical records and diagnostic reports would be pulled, and then the truth about her pregnancy couldn't be hidden. "That's right, son-in-law, you don't need to worry, it's just a minor surgery. The doctor just said she'll be out soon." "Chloe, how can you be so thoughtless? Letting stand here the whole time? Quickly take him home to rest." Robert guessed his daughter's thoughts and practically shooed them both away. "I was groggy, I thought I heard someone calling my name. When I woke up, I saw a middle-aged couple hovering over me." "Grace? Who was Grace?" I blinked, utterly bewildered. "Oh, right, I was Grace. But who were they?" It took me a long time to process the facts. I had been in a car accident, lost a kidney, and my memory was stuck at 16 years old. Chloe, my sister, still had that domineering air about her. The handsome man in front of me, however, was frowning deeply. For some reason, he always looked at me with a melancholic gaze. My intuition told me there were no good people here. I curled up in the blanket, quickly typing on my phone, "I want to go back to the rural home. Can you take me?" The man froze. He was the first to rush to my side. "You really don't remember me?" I shook my head, shrinking further into the covers. "Why isn't Noah here?" "I want to find Noah. He was my first love, the kind of boy who made my heart flutter with just one glance." Chloe pulled the man aside and then leaned in herself. "You miss him?" How about Chloe takes you back to the rural home? I quickly poked my head out from under the covers, nodding excitedly. Of course! I wanted to go back and find Noah. Ethan leaned against the car's hood, looking down below. In a simple little courtyard, Grace was playfully pestering Noah to push the swing higher. She quickly made sign language gestures, and Noah responded with his own hand gestures. Then, Noah nodded affectionately, pushing her higher and higher. For some reason, watching this scene, Ethan felt a pang of bitterness in his heart. Lately, whether at work or interacting with Chloe, he was always distracted. He would often drive to this spot without a word, just to watch Grace. The person he loved was clearly Chloe. He stubbed out his cigarette, got into his car, and headed back. Chloe was pregnant and waiting for him to pick her up at the He family home. After driving to the He family home, Ethan skillfully pushed open the door, only to find the hall empty. He went up the stairs, and a quarrel between several people could be heard from a corner room. "You're greedy," insisting on marrying her off to that old geezer who's 30 years older. Now she's lost a kidney, and they don't want her anymore, but you still don't want to return the money? How can there be so many good things in the world? Why should I sell my jewelry to give you money? Chloe slammed the door shut with a bang and stormed out. Ethan stepped forward and pulled her into his embrace. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. Let's go home." Chloe forced a smile, took Ethan's hand, and went home. That night, as he slept soundly, the massive fire he hadn't seen in a long time flared up again in his dream. "Help!" He woke with a jolt, seeing Chloe staring at him with a complex expression. In his hand, he was still clutching a vase, about to smash it at her. It had been a long time since he'd acted like this. Hadn't his bipolar disorder been cured? Early the next morning, he rushed to the hospital for a checkup. The doctor frowned, speaking in a low voice. "Your readings are abnormal. Have you been under any recent stress?" "Yes. I divorced my ex-wife." "Your ex-wife? You mean the well-behaved Grace?" Ethan paused, then gave a soft "It's proven that your recovery was largely due to her meticulous care. Why don't you discuss it with her? See if she'll come back and take care of you for a while longer?" She hates me now." Ethan slowly stated the fact. She indeed hated him. That day, when he volunteered to drive her back to the rural home, she had vehemently refused. After that, every time he appeared in her sight, she would stare at him intently, as if guarding against a criminal. She would no longer obediently follow him around like before. "All right then, I'll prescribe some medication. You also need to find ways to release stress and change your mood. Oh, and by the way, I consulted with a colleague from the OB wife. She seemed quite happy back then, so why the sudden divorce? It's normal for couples to argue. She can't speak, so she's considered vulnerable. If you coax her properly, maybe she'll come back." OB. He had never heard her mention it. A ripple of unease spread through Ethan's heart. Forgetting to pick up his medication, he rushed to find the dean and retrieve Grace's medical records. 16 weeks pregnant. Early pregnancy. Diagnosis date, July 12th. This was the day before Chloe returned. After connecting all the dots, he suddenly remembered her touching her belly twice in the car that day. So, as soon as she got pregnant, he dragged her off to get a divorce. Even a monster wouldn't be this cruel. But why was it that on the day Grace had her accident, neither Chloe nor her family mentioned anything about her pregnancy? Even though the child was no longer there. Ethan felt a sense of betrayal he had never experienced before. His voice cold, he instructed the dean to have someone retrieve the security footage from the day of the surgery. Chloe was sound asleep in bed when Ethan suddenly kicked the door open and returned. His face was grim, and he said nothing, just stared at her, making her uneasy. "You're back. What did the doctor say?" "Chloe, if my bipolar disorder were to flare up again, would you still choose to stay by my side?" Chloe paused, then sat up straight, stammering, "Of course. I'd definitely be by your side. I'd always support you." "Then why did you choose to leave 3 years ago?" "At that time, I was accepted by a piano master, and they urgently wanted me to go for intensive study in a secluded program. I simply didn't have time to tell you." Seeing that he wasn't making any further moves, Chloe scooted closer, trying to make her voice sound less shaky. Honey, it's very late now. The baby needs a regular schedule. Let's go to bed. Ethan allowed her to pull him onto the bed, then closed his eyes. But clearly, in the security footage, that's not what she said. If you hadn't told me he was cured by grace, I wouldn't have come back. Wasn't it better for me to be abroad, sleeping with 3 or 4 younger men? You brat, aren't you living well now? The wife of Hawthorne, billions in assets for you to squander. What's there to be unhappy about? Your kidney has problems, so you make Grace donate a kidney. The man you don't want to marry, you make her marry him. Good things always come to you first. What reason do you have to complain now? In the security footage, he saw Chloe's true colors, a side he had never witnessed. A chest full of rage made it impossible for him to sleep. If hadn't come back, Grace would have told him about the pregnancy. They would have become a happy family of 3. Instead of this, now he had to eat and sleep with a wicked-hearted woman. At 3 in the morning, his temples throbbed violently. The next instant, he violently grabbed Chloe's right arm and bent it backwards. Ah! Chloe was jolted awake by the excruciating pain, meeting Ethan's bloodshot eyes. Help! Help! She stumbled to the floor, dragging herself toward the door with only one arm. Wicked-hearted! Bitch! Ethan completely lost control, punching her lower abdomen repeatedly. He watched the warm blood stream down her thighs, a surge of grim satisfaction sweeping through him. We're even now. Everything's even. In the hospital room, Chloe tightly clutched Susan's clothes, refusing to let go. I'm begging you. Call the police. Hurry and call the police. Ethan is having an episode. I want a divorce. He broke my hand. I can never play piano again. The scene of Ethan, with his bloodshot eyes, hitting her replayed constantly in her mind. It was terrifying. All right, daughter. You wait. Susan will go talk to him. I'll make sure you get a divorce. Let's stay far away from a person like that. Susan had just tucked Chloe into bed when Ethan walked in. His face was cold as he stood by the door, scanning the 3 of them. Who do you want to stay away from? So your hand is broken, it can be fixed. Why are you still trying to leave? Robert shielded Chloe like a mother hen, not allowing him to come any closer. Let's talk this through calmly, no need for physical force, right? Look, Chloe isn't very comfortable right now. How about I have Grace come back and take care of you for a while first? Ethan snorted coldly, glaring sideways at Robert. When he had an episode, Grace would come. When he was better, he became Chloe's again. Why did Chloe get all the good things? Chloe, you'd better stay put right here. Every time you try to run away and I find out, I'll break something again. His fingers gripped Chloe's chin, with such force it felt like he was about to crush her bones. Chloe, her face pale, glared at him defiantly. Ethan. I hate you. Hate? What right did she have to speak of hate? When had 2 kidneys removed because of you, how should her hatred be accounted for? When you locked her in a room with a 30-year-old old man, forcing her to marry him, didn't she hate that? Ethan gritted his teeth. He hated hypocrites most, yet everyone around him was hypocritical. Except for Grace. She could tolerate his behavior during his episodes, again and again. She had never looked at him with disgust or pity. Only with her did he feel normal. Ethan let out a roar and stormed out of the hospital room. Robert collapsed onto the floor in fear, while Susan was so terrified she had wet herself and the smell of urine filled the air. It's over. He knows. The massive fire burned again in his dream, scorching him, making Ethan tear at his own body relentlessly. In the depths of the red flames, a black hole suddenly appeared. Standing there was a little girl. Ethan, hurry, come with me. Don't be afraid. I'm here to save you. The little girl was much smaller than him. The smoke choked her, making her cough incessantly, yet she showed no fear. She literally used her body to lift him, carrying him out of the fire. Ethan watched helplessly as the fire engulfed his home, consuming his parents. His family was gone. He sobbed loudly, tearing at his own body. Why am I the only one who survived? Why? He frantically harmed himself, trying to find even a shred of comfort within. But the deeper the harm, the deeper the pain. Ethan. The little girl tugged at his sleeve, her bright, clear eyes looking straight at him. She cleared her throat, wanting to say something more, but the sound that came out was harsh and hoarse, like a rusted saw blade catching. Yet, before the fire, her voice had been clear and bright. The girl understood the meaning in his eyes and stopped trying to speak. Instead, she held him tightly in her arms, gently patting his shoulder to comfort him. Ethan took a cold shower, and in his mind, the girl's eyes gradually merged with Grace's. Grace also had such eyes, bright and clear. Grace. As if something clicked, he rushed into the study and pulled up the exact time of the fire from that year. Then, he retrieved Grace's medical records. 10 years ago, the day after the fire, she was sent to the ENT department for an examination. The reason was vocal cord tissue fibrosis. Ethan suddenly understood everything. Why only she could soothe him and cure his illness. It had always been her. It wasn't Chloe who saved him, as Robert had claimed. It was all just a pretext for the He family father and daughter to cling to him. I saw Ethan again in the early morning. His eyes were red, and he stood rigidly before me. Is something wrong? Nothing. I just wanted to see you. What's there to see about me? You're beautiful. You always have been. What a strange man. I scratched my head, then turned to go find Noah. Let me tell you a story. Sorry. I don't like listening to stories. If you don't leave, I won't be polite. I angrily typed on my phone, and once I was sure he saw the words on the screen, I turned and walked away. Grace, I'm sorry. If I were in danger again, would you still save me? I frowned, turned around, walked up to him, and stepped hard on his expensive-looking leather shoes. Noah and I are getting married today, and I'm in a great mood. Don't bother me anymore. After seeing the words getting married, Ethan's pupils constricted violently. His apple bobbed, but he couldn't utter a word. How ridiculous. He didn't even have a reason to stop her from getting married. But what reason did he have to stop her from pursuing happiness? He slowly squatted to the ground, looking at his uncontrollably trembling hands, murmuring to himself, "You don't want me anymore either." Ethan stayed in the courtyard for a full hour before coming out. When he left, his entire demeanor was one of utter dejection. I stood in the corner, watching him drive away. Actually, half a month after being discharged from the hospital, the blood clot in my brain dispersed. All my memories resurfaced, and I felt only pain. Love was too bitter. Losing a kidney made my life too bitter as well. I just wanted to live the rest of my life in peace. As for anything else, I wanted nothing. Half a month later, I went to the hospital for dialysis and ran into Chloe. She had lost a significant amount of weight, and both of her arms were in steel pins. When she saw me, she frantically waved her arms, cursing loudly, "Bitch. This is all your fault. I can never play the piano again. Robert and Susan went bankrupt. Are you satisfied now?" I snorted coldly and turned to leave. So what if they went bankrupt? It had nothing to do with me. My phone rang at that moment. It was my doctor, Ms. Grace. "We've found a matching kidney for you. Please come to the hospital as soon as possible for the surgery." "Okay, thank you." On the other end of the line, Ethan sighed with relief after hearing her say okay. He could finally do something for her.